Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Shifting Perspectives. My name is Derek Kopp and I'm going to be talking to you today about what I call the small stone theory. Here's a small stone theory. Focusing on what's true and taking action is the only way to take down the giants in your life. I'll say it again. The small stone theory is focusing on what's true and taking action is the only way to take down giants in your life. Now, the story comes from the age-old story in the Old Testament of David and Goliath. You may be familiar with the story, but I want to invite you to listen to it as I tell it because I'm going to draw out certain aspects of the story that specifically help us apply it to our lives today. Goliath was a giant, standing almost 10 feet tall, physical prowess, unmatched strength. David is the other piece of the story. He was a shepherd, a gentle but strong young man. The Philistine army, Goliath was a Philistine. The Philistine army was set up against the Israelite army, and Goliath came out for 40 days in the morning and the evening and taunted the Israelites and said, "Send me a man to fight me, and whoever fights me and wins, whoever wins, the other army will become your servants." As tempting as that might have sounded to have the entire Philistine army be the Israelites' servants, no Israelite stood up to Goliath because he was big, he was loud, he was scary. For over 6 weeks, Goliath came, thundered through the valley. As he stepped out and spoke and taunted the Israelites, he was a constant reminder of how weak and how helpless the Israelite army felt. This happened over and over and over again for 6 weeks. Then David came. He was a shepherd. He didn't even come to be part of the army. He came to deliver some bread and cheese to his brothers who were soldiers in the Israelite army. He was there the first evening he was there. The giant, which now the Israelites army was used to hearing, the giant came out and said, "Send me a man to fight against me." And David said, Who is this that's mocking our God? Who is this who's mocking you? And callously, the Israelite soldiers said, "Well, it's Goliath. He's been doing this for 40 days. And David said, "Is nobody going to fight him?" And they said, "Well, we can't fight him. Do you see how big he is? He's almost 1.5 times our size." Then, in a moment of probably what seemed like pure naivety, David offered to fight the giant Goliath. A shepherd boy offered to fight this giant who was trained in the art of war. Everybody thought he was crazy, but nobody told him that he couldn't do it. In fact, King Saul offered to David to wear his armor. So David tried on the armor. It was big, it was clunky, it was awkward for him. And David took it off. And again, what seemed like a moment of pure naivety. And the Israelite soldiers looked at him and said, "You just rejected the one thing that could protect you from fighting the giant." But it was cumbersome, it was awkward for David. Then David started approaching the giant, and as he did, he reached down into a brook, into a creek, and he picked up a small stone. He picked up 5 of them. He picked up a small stone. He put that small stone in his pocket, walked towards the giant. Now, imagine walking up to a man that's 10 feet tall. His armor was so impressive. His shield was so heavy that he had a shield bearer that walked in front of him in preparation for war. That's how big his shield was. Nonetheless, David, a shepherd boy, strong but gentle shepherd boy, put that stone into his slingshot and with expertly swung that slingshot and hit Goliath straight in the middle of the forehead. One of the only places on Goliath's body that was not protected. Goliath immediately was killed, fell down on the ground, and just thud, fell down. And as he fell down, as he was killed, the Philistine army didn't fight the Israelites. In fact, they turned around and they ran like cowards in the wind. It's amazing what happened. When David rejected conventional wisdom, he rejected the conventional military armor and said, "You know what? I'm good at a slingshot. Give me a small stone and I'll take down this giant." With one small stone, an amazing thing happened. David focused on the truth of the stone, that a stone could take down a giant, and with action he put it in his slingshot and killed the giant, took down the giant. With one small stone, it wasn't just the giant that David took down, it was the entire Philistine army that David took down. Because what the Israelites didn't realize is if you could take down Goliath, you effectively wiped out the entire Philistine army. One small stone changed the entire game. How about us? Fear is a giant. Doubt is a giant. Maybe they seem like they tower more than 10 feet tall in our lives, but no doubt they seem like giants. It's the game of fear and doubt to taunt us, to come out day after day, week after week, month after month, if we let it go that long, and taunt us and let it be a constant reminder to us of how weak and how helpless we feel. And then beyond that, there's a whole army of emotions and thoughts that increase the perceived strength of this giant of fear and doubt. We cannot win against the giants of fear and doubt if we play their game. We can't win. In fact, I've tried to win. You've probably tried to win fighting the game directly against fear and doubt, the way that fear and doubt want you to play the game. But we'll lose every time we play that game the way they want to play the game. So we must change the rules. Take off the awkward, cumbersome armor, the conventional wisdom that tells you need just more motivation to get moving. That tells you that fake it till you make it. Instead, grab a small stone of truth. What is the truth that you know about yourself? What is the truth that you know about your situation? What is the truth that you know about your God? What is a truth that you can rely on that you haven't been relying on? What is a piece of truth that's been missing in your toolbox of life? What is that truth? It's a small stone. And as you're walking to take down the giant of fear and doubt, stop for a moment. And in the creek that you're walking over, bend over and recognize a truth, a small stone of truth. Pick it up. Roll it over in your hands. Inspect it. Look at it. Get to know that truth. Because the truth is truth. It hasn't changed. But it's up to you to pick it up and recognize it and accept it for the truth that it is. Focus then on putting that truth into action. Take that stone, the truth, and put it in your slingshot. Because the slingshot is the action part of it. Small stone theory is by focusing on truth and taking action is the only way to take down the giants in your life. Fear hates action. Fear loves inaction. Fear loves instability. Fear loves doubt. Fear hates being defined. It loves being this nebulous giant in your life that is undefined and just looks like this magnificently large thing that you can't take down. Fear hates the truth. So when you focus on the truth and you take action, you're changing the game. You are not playing the game that fear and doubt want you to play. You're playing the way that is the right way to play, focusing on truth and taking action. Don't play fear's game. Play your game. Play your game of truth. Play your game of action. The small stone is truth. The slingshot is action. And here's another piece. If we take this a step further, which is even more exciting to me, it's hard not to take action when we're focused on the truth. Because if you have a small stone in your hand and you have the slingshot there with you, why not would you put the stone in the slingshot and take action? It's hard not to take action when you're focused on the truth. And if you're struggling, if you say, I'm focused on the truth, but I'm struggling to take action, then I would push back and say, then there's a piece of that truth that you're still missing. There's a piece of that truth that you still need to step into. That stone hasn't been fully rolled over in your hand, turned over and inspected fully. Because once you know the truth, it's hard not to take the action with that truth. I'll ask you the question I asked you a few minutes ago. What is the truth that you've been overlooking? What is the truth in your life that you've been ignoring? The truth that if you fully accepted it and took action on it, would take down the fear and doubt in your own life. What is that stone? Don't worry about putting it in action yet. Just recognize what is that truth that you've been missing. What would it look like to accept that truth for what it is? Here's a couple things we can learn from the story beyond what we've already talked about. Conventional wisdom is often misguided. And doing the exact opposite of what most people say to do is often the most effective. There's no better way than to fight the battle of fear and doubt than to get down to the simplicity of the matter and focus on the fear, or focus on the truth and focus on action. A lot of people say there's a lot more things that you need to do, and there's a lot of things that are helpful, don't get me wrong, but if we make it down really, really simple, it is truth and action that take down fear and doubt. When you play by your rules, you'll realize that you actually don't have to protect yourself from fear. David wasn't protected. God protected him, but physically he wasn't protected at all. Because there's a part of him that realized, when I focus on my stone and my slingshot, I don't need to protect myself. I can go on the offense. So go on the offense, take the ball, run down the field, score a goal, and you might be surprised what happens.